for that. All right. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker Carl, and I'm here with my good friends Jason and Lori and Catherine. And today we're going to continue our discussion of the book, The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. And we are on, let me get back to my page here. We're on page 260 with the section titled The Flowers Have Water. And but before we get going, I want to give my friends an opportunity to introduce themselves. And then, Catherine, you can take it away from there. Read us a story.
Good morning, Lori Edmonds in Denver.
Good morning, Lori. Good morning, everybody. It's Jason in Tampa. So glad to be here. Happy holidays, everyone. Looking forward to the discussion today.
Good morning, everyone. This is Catherine Clement, and I'll be reading today. We're starting at The Flowers Have Water. She pulled up at the house and ran inside as Plato padded happily to greet her. "Hello?" she asked desperately. "Ash? Molly?" She needed to see them. She knew she didn't have long. She could feel the midnight library waiting for her. "Outside," said Ash chirpily from the back garden. And so Nora went through to find Molly on her tricycle again, unfazed by her previous accident, while Ash was tending to a flower bed. "How was your trip?" Molly climbed off her bicycle and ran over. "Mummy, I missed you. I'm really good at biking now. Are you, darling?" She hugged her daughter close and closed her eyes and inhaled the scent of her hair and the dog and fabric conditioner and childhood, and she hoped the wonder of it would help keep her here. "I love you, Molly. I want you to know that forever and ever. Do you understand?" "Yes, Mummy, of course. I love your daddy, too. And everything will be okay because whatever happens, you will always have daddy and you will have Mummy, too. It's just I might not be here in the exact same way. I'll be here, but..." She realized Molly needed to know nothing else except one truth. "I love you." Molly looked concerned. "You forgot Plato." "Well, obviously I love Plato. How could I forget Plato? Plato knows I love him, don't you, Plato? Plato, I love you." Nora tried to compose herself. "Whatever happens, they will be looked after. They will be loved, and they have each other, and they will be happy." Then Ash came over with his gardening gloves on. "You okay, Nora? You seem a bit pale. Did anything happen?" "Oh, I'll tell you about it later when Molly's in bed." "Okay. Oh, there's a shop coming any time, so keep an ear out for the lorry." "Sure, yeah." And then Molly asked if she could get the watering can out, and Ash explained that as it had been raining a lot recently, it wasn't necessary because the sky had been looking after the flowers. "They'll be okay. They're looked after. The flowers have water." And the words echoed in Nora's mind. "They'll be okay. They're looked after." And then Ash said something about going to the cinema tonight and how the babysitter was all arranged, and Nora had forgotten completely, but just smiled and tried really hard to hold on, to stay there. But it was happening. It was happening. She knew it from within every hidden chamber of her being, and there was absolutely nothing she could do to stop it. Nowhere to land. No! Unmistakably, it had happened. She was back in the midnight library. Mrs. Elm was at the computer. The lights wobbled and shook and flickered overhead in fast, arrhythmic blinks. "Nora, stop. Calm down. Be a good girl. I need to sort this out." Dust fell in thin wisps from the ceiling, from cracks fissuring and spreading like spider webs woven at unnatural speed. There was the sound of sudden active destruction, which, in her sad fury, Nora found herself managing to ignore. "You're not Mrs. Elm. Mrs. Elm is dead. Am I dead? We've been through this, but now you mention it, maybe you're about to be. Why aren't I still there? Why aren't I there? I could sense it was happening, but I didn't want it to. You said that if I found a life I wanted to live in, that I really wanted to live in, that I'd stay there. You said I'd forget about this stupid place. You said I could find the life I wanted. That was the life I wanted. That was the life. Moments ago, she had been in the garden with Ash and Molly and Plato, a garden humming with life and love, and now she was here. Take me back. You know it doesn't work like that. Well, take me to the closest variation. Give me the closest possible thing to that life. Please, Mrs. Elm, it must be possible. There must be a life where I went for the coffee with Ash and where we had Molly and Plato, but I did something slightly different, so it was technically another life. Like I chose a different dog collar for Plato, or 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 where I don't know, where I did Pilates instead of yoga, or where I went to a different college at Cambridge, or if it has to be further back, where it wasn't coffee on the date, tea. That life. Take me to the life where I did that. Come on, please. Help me out. I'd like to try one of those lives, please. The computer started to smoke. The screen went black. The whole monitor fell to pieces. You don't understand, said Mrs. Elm, defeated, as she collapsed back into the office chair. But that's what happens, isn't it? I pick a regret, something I wished I had done differently, and then you find the book, I open the book, and I live the book. That's how this library works, right? It's not that simple. Why? Is there a transference problem? You know, like what happened before? Mrs. Elm looked at her sadly. It's more than that. There was always a strong possibility that your old life would end. I told you that, didn't I? You wanted to die, and maybe you would. Yes, but you said I just needed somewhere to go to, somewhere to land. That's what you said. Another life, those exact words. And all I needed to do was think hard enough and choose the right life. And I know, but it didn't work out like that. The ceiling was falling down now in pieces, as if the plaster was no more stable than the icing of a wedding cake. Nora noticed something even more distressing. A spark flew from one of the lights and landed on a book, which consequently ignited into a glowing burst of fire. Pretty soon the fire was spreading along the entire shelf, the books burning as rapidly as if they were doused in petrol. A whole stream of hot, raging, roaring amber. Then another spark arced towards a different shelf, and that too set alight. At about the same time, a large chunk of dusty ceiling landed by Nora's feet. Under the table, ordered Mrs. Elm. Now! Nora hunched down and followed Mrs. Elm, who was now on all fours, under the table, where she sat on her knees and was forced, like Mrs. Elm, to keep her head down. Why can't you stop this? It's a chain reaction now. Those sparks aren't random. The books are going to be destroyed, and then, just as inevitably, the whole place is going to collapse. Why? I don't understand. I was there. I had found the life for me, the only life for me, the best one in here. But that's the problem, said Mrs. Elm, nervously looking out from beneath the wooden legs of the table as more shelves caught on fire and as debris fell all around them. It still wasn't enough. Look. At what? At your watch. Any moment now. So Nora looked, and at first saw nothing untoward, but then it was happening. The watch was suddenly acting like a watch. The display was starting to move. 00000000, 000001, 000002. What's happening? Nora asked, realizing that whatever it was probably wasn't good. Time. That's what's happening. How are we going to leave this place? 000009, 000010? We're not, said Mrs. Elm. There's no we. I can't leave the library. When the library disappears, so do I. but there's a chance that you can get out, though you don't have long, no more than a minute. Nora had just lost one Mrs. Elm. She didn't want to lose this one, too. Mrs. Elm could see her distress. Listen, I am part of the library, but this whole library is part of you. Do you understand? You don't exist because of the library. This library exists because of you. Remember what Hugo said? He told you that this is the simplest way your brain translates the strange and multifarious reality of the universe. So this is just your brain translating something significant and dangerous. I gathered that. But one thing is clear, you didn't want that life. It was the perfect life. Did you feel that all of the time? Yes, I wanted to. I loved Molly, and I might have loved Ash, but I suppose maybe it wasn't my life. I hadn't made it by myself. I had walked into this other version of me. I was carbon copied into the perfect life, but it wasn't me. 000015. I don't want to die, said Nora, her voice suddenly raised, but also fragile. She was shaking from her very core. I don't want to die. Mrs. Elm looked at her with wide eyes shining with the small flame of an idea. You need to get out of here. I can't. The library goes on for bloody ever. The moment I walked in it, the entrance disappeared. Then you have to find it again. How? There are no doors. Who needs a door when you have a book? The books are all on fire. There's one that won't be. That's the one you need to find. The Book of Regrets? Mrs. Elm almost laughed. No, that is the last book you need. That will be Ash by now. That will have been the first book to burn. You need to go that way. She pointed to her left. Chaos and fire and falling plaster. It's the 11th aisle that way, third shelf from the bottom. The whole place is going to fall down. 000021, 22, 23. Don't you get it, Nora? Get what? It all makes sense. You came back here this time not because you wanted to die, but because you want to live. This library isn't falling down because it wants to kill you. It's falling down because it's giving you a chance to return. Something decisive has finally happened. You have decided you want to be alive. Now go on, live while you still have the chance. But what about you? What's going to happen to you? Don't worry about me, she said. I promise you, I won't feel a thing. And then she said what the real Mrs. Elm had said when she had hugged Nora back at the school library on the day her dad had died. Things will get better, Nora. It's going to be all right. Mrs. Elm placed a hand above the desk and hastily rummaged for something. A second later, she was handing Nora an orange plastic fountain pen, the kind Nora had owned at school, the one she had noticed ages ago. You'll need this. Why? This one isn't already written. You have to start this. Nora took the pen. Bye, Mrs. Elm. A second later, a massive chunk of ceiling slammed onto the table. A thick cloud of plaster dust clouded them, choking them. 34, 35. Go, coughed Mrs. Elm. Live. Don't you dare give up, Nora Seed. Should I continue or stop?
I think we need to stop.
All right.
I think we know what's going to happen now.
Yep.
I think that we've realized now that all this was kind of a dream while she was in the between state of life and death. Of she's almost dying, and this is where goes in her mind to go through all of the reasons she didn't want to live to find the reason that she does want to live. Yeah, I think she's gonna go back and have learned all these lessons and realized that her life is worth living after all, and then make the choices to go towards her most. Maybe she'll go out on a date with Ash or something. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I think
I
that
don't
was
know.
a
They're already
fantastic
living like.
reading. That's what I think. That was terrific, Catherine. Thank you. Go ahead, Lori. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I forgot what I was gonna say now.
Oh, that's okay. Does she, yeah, does she want to have a chance to fall in love with Ash and a possibility of living that life? Is that the inspiration she needed? That's what I thought of when you were speaking, Samantha, that, you know, found something that she that made her, want to live, something that inspired her, that she felt from inside. Whereas even being in that life path, being carbon copied into it, as was said, she didn't. It came from outside, but then the inspiration, the feeling welled up within her. So that was one take I had from that. So much through that reading. That was
I,
terrific.
I think it's a whole new conundrum for her. Like, because now she has to write the book herself. She's not stepping into one that's already written. And so that, I mean, and that's something that we all face every day, or we can choose to face every day, is we can rewrite our life every morning when we get up. We don't have to live the same life day after day after day. But for her, she's kind of used to him already being written. Like, I think it's going to blow her mind that she has to actually write this one. And what is she going to choose, to write about? Because when you start making those decisions, when you realize, well, yeah, I don't have to be what I was yesterday. I can be something completely new today, but what do I want to be? I mean, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
I decided I'm not gonna grow up.
Yeah, I think kind of the biggest thing with her is just realizing that, all that mumbo jumbo she'd been telling herself all along is just a bunch of mumbo jumbo, and now she has that option. She just had to find something inside of herself to, overcome all her bullshit so that she would have a reason to live. And I think she experienced a lot of different things in this kind of dreamland that she enjoyed, and then there was stuff that she didn't, and then she realized that no matter what decision she would have made relating to her dad and her brother, or her family, or whatever they were wanting, really didn't weren't it wasn't um, her responsibility, I think. And I think that, early in the book, when she was still alive, she really felt a great level of responsibility for all the things that happened to everybody else in her family and friends and life. And she was carrying that burden around with her. And I think now she will be able to let go of those thought processes and move forward into a life that she can actually love, and or at least want to live, or at least try to live. Or now she realizes she's got a lot of different things she could do, and now she just gets to pick what they're going to be. So I'm excited for her.
Yeah, it does seem like originally, now that we're at this point in the book, it does seem more like her um, original path, and her understanding and of it was more about navigating a her way through a world where she was more concerned with everyone else and kind of reacting to all of her outside, environmental stimulus, and and then reacting to her reactions about how she felt about how she was affecting others, rather than um, looking outside that box of her of what uh, her life had thrown at her, rather than breaking through that and looking outside that for whatever it is that she wanted, and and being um, her own um, like pilot of her own destiny, irregardless of how it affected others. And so it was neat how that kind of was wrapped up in that one little scene or one little phrase about the flowers, that the flowers were being taken care of.
Just that title of the chapter, "The Flowers Are Taken Care of," and just pointing that out. I mean, that's something to keep in mind when you feel like you got a lot of stress on you, or you find yourself worried about things. I had that kind of same huge light bulb moment the other day when I was tending to my plants, because I have all of these plants, and they just are growing like so fast and crazy, and the light, because of the way the winter, uh the way where the sun comes up in the winter here and the way it angles into my room, they weren't getting enough light. And so they were finding all of these ways to, like, they were flowering here where they weren't supposed to be, or they were growing up over here and growing towards the light. And it was just fascinating. I was fascinated by how resilient my plants are. And then I was nice and bought them a light so that they don't have to struggle so much. But you know, it is something to keep in mind when you just feel like you're so stressed and you just want to, bang your head against something, that life does go on, and this too shall pass, Lori. I know that's, you and I say that a lot. This too
Yeah.
shall pass. And the flowers are cared for, like, we're really, I mean, we're here, and yeah, we have, control over our choices and things like that, but there's a master plan somewhere. I'm convinced of that. And we're kind of along for the ride at the same time. And sometimes we just gotta be like at the front of the roller coaster where you throw your arms up and just let go and ride the ride.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I should ride the front car of the roller coaster because I never have. I would never let go. I'd throw my hands up and say, okay, here we go. It's one of those things I really struggle with, of writing my own story, rewriting, because there's parts of it I can't. I've worked so hard to try and change or to get out of, you know, do my best to stay out of that predicament. But it really a struggle to rewrite it somehow that doesn't include this wheelchair and inability to walk. And I can write stuff down on paper. It just doesn't seem to come to fruition like Nora's finding in the library. Just flip around from here to there. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just to start writing. Um, so some ways it makes sense to me just to start writing, and other ways it's like, well, without the inspiration of something, how do I even start writing? You know, but to take it back just a step or two, we were talking about rewriting our life path, or our character, who we are, what we're going to do. It's like sometimes it feels like you need to just start writing and not try to rewrite the whole thing necessarily, but just go ahead and be like a not just a participant, and not just the person in the front of the roller coaster, but the one that decides what turns and loops and things I'm going to take before we're even there. You know, perhaps not being bound by the track that we're put on in a way, you know. It's gonna be a wild ride either way. Might as well steer it yourself, I guess, huh?
Be the engineer.
Yeah. I mean, that could have been as easily, it could have been an engineer as much as the librarian, you know, possibly as a character. There's a lot of great points in this scene, though.
I feel like a lot of time we go through life kind of like a train does on a train track, where we think we're kind of stuck on this path that we have no way to get off of. And and we don't realize that there are all these interchanges that we could, switch tracks or whatever. And I don't know. There's when there's so much going on in your life in general that is seemingly out of control or out of your own control. It has this kind of feeling of, what can you do, and but I think we forget how much power we do have in our own lives, and we sometimes allow ourselves to keep saying crap that saying crap in our own mind that says, you can't do this, or you can't do that, or you can't change this, or you can't change that, when in reality we have a whole lot more control than we think we do. And I feel like this book is really kind of like addressed a lot of that, in that, I mean, Nora thought that she was just doomed on this life path of, always disappointing everybody, and always, letting people down, or well, yeah, pretty much I feel like that was her main kind of life theme at the beginning, was just this attitude of not being good enough to everybody, and not even taking into consideration what she wants in her life, because she has just been so having all these regrets for not following through on things that everybody else wanted. So um, I don't know. It's going to be interesting when she gets back into her life to see what she does. If it'll even tell us. It may just leave us hanging with this whole thing of, okay, now she's going to rewrite her life and go a different path, but she's excited about it. Who knows? I don't know. So
Yeah, we don't know if she makes it back or makes it out. And it's interesting, even to the point where she decides she wants to live. Up until that point, she was still asking the librarian to put her in another path. then she was okay with being put into another path by something else. Just she was picking it a little bit more, she knew a little bit more about what she wanted, and she was saying something similar to that, but she was still up to that point okay with someone else calling the shots. And it seems to me that even if she had been put into a similar path, then maybe she still wouldn't have had the inspiration to be able to stay there and stay on that path, possibly up until the point where it got evident that she needed to decide and make that decision. And now she's deciding she wants to live and she doesn't know what the outcome might be, which is pretty interesting as well, to me anyway.
I find it a little challenging to be in the parental role, the mom, and having to make decisions for other people for their benefit, and then making mistakes that is extremely detrimental to the offspring, to your family members, or whatever people in the situation. And then being responsible for it is a whole different realm of responsibilities and writing the story. If I make a decision and it ends up being the wrong one, or it hurts people, or it's hard to be responsible that way.
Yeah, I think when you're a parent, you see that a lot, and you look back in your life and you realize all the different things you could have done better as a parent. And but I also feel like when you're able to see that is then you can recognize also with your own parents that, they probably realized as they got older, oh, I could have done things different, I could have done things better or whatever. And that helps you to I don't know, at least for me, it helps me to let go of some of my annoyance at my parents for the way that they were when I was younger. And I feel like by being able to do that, then I can also let go of some of the regrets that I have about, you know, how I could have done things better also, because I recognize that, you know, I mean, we can only do the best that we can do with what we have to work with at the time. And we, how can we berate ourselves for not doing something we didn't know we should have done, or or not, or not acting in a way that we didn't know we shouldn't have acted, or, or not realizing how our words might affect our children when we didn't know, and uh, I mean, we beat ourselves up so much for so many things in our lives, and uh, for that we didn't know that we should, I mean, we don't know what we don't know, right? And it's not. I have to remind myself I did the best that I could with what I knew how to do at the time of my life, at maturity levels, all of the different things, and I can't go back and I can't change the things that I did or didn't do back then. All I can do is recognize now when I'm doing those behaviors in my life now, whether it's towards, my, adult family members or whether it's towards the young ones, and work on trying to just do things different than I did then. And um and forgive myself for what I didn't know, and forgive my parents for what they didn't know and their parents for what they didn't know, because we can look back at all these different things going back into the past for all of our relatives and whatnot. We can see, at least I can see now, how those different things that happened were the cause of what happened to me, and that the cause of what happened with my children was because of the things that I learned. I mean, and all that we can do is learn more and become better, if you will, and work towards creating better relationships going forward in the future. And really, it just comes down to working on our internal bullshit that we say to ourselves, because we can't fix anyone else. We have to work on ourselves. And by virtue of working on ourselves, we change the dynamics of all of our relationships, and we change the world by the ripple effect. And I don't know. I mean, I look out on the world sometimes and I'm like, gosh, the world is crazy, but it's different than it was 20 years ago, and it's different than it was 100 years ago, and it's different. I mean, it just keeps changing, and we keep growing as humanity, and we keep growing as, you know, with relation to each other. I mean, there's always people that aren't going to be trying to learn and be better. I mean, but then again, maybe there won't. Maybe eventually it'll get to the point where we're all working hard on ourselves and we aren't as hard on each other. And I don't know. It's just better all the way around. So I don't know.
That's where my plug for that book, We Didn't Get Here Alone, that is basically about all this, that whatever we went through when we were, under the age of 5 or 7, that it's all the ancestral stuff that affects it. And then maybe we can rewrite that part. Excuse me. Got a frog. I'll be back.
What was also interesting in that, Nora, when she said you could, like, that the exit was a book, and Nora's first thought was what the book of regrets, and that was like, how it's similar to like how often we go back to that, pick up that version of our life, and or have an inclination to, and librarians, the whole library is falling down around her, things burning, and she's like, no, that book of regrets, now that she had made a decision and was, looking for a way out, that book of regrets was the first thing to burn up. And so it was totally different book, but that there was a book or a path out of there, but it was one that was going to be of her own authorship.
Yeah, I think that's a good reminder. We can't go forward into a different life path if we're still stuck in all of our regrets. We need to burn that book of regrets. We need to let go of all that BS that we keep telling ourselves so that we can create a new path. Because the path we're on right now was created by all that BS that we've been carrying around with us for all these years. And I mean, obviously we have made some positive choices too, but I mean, if we're not happy with where we are in our lives right now, we're not happy with certain aspect of it, it's because we're stuck in some kind of regretful bullshit we're telling ourselves, and we need to let go of that. And we can't change the dynamics of relationships, and we can't change the dynamics that we have with ourselves if we're still stuck in that BS. I mean, it, it's a weird thing. I mean, all the dynamics of our relationships are part of that, and when we have regrets and mumbo jumbo we keep telling ourselves, we tie ourselves to that aspect versus a different aspect, a different way of being. And yeah, I think the only way that we can move forward and have better whatever it is we're looking for is letting go of all that BS, and forgiving ourselves if it's stuff that we feel bad about. um you know
I have another um, representation for BS. It's our belief systems.
Yep, that's what Suzanne calls it her BS, her belief systems. And I think it's a good practice. I do fire ceremony every once in a while. It's always a good practice to, write down your regrets and just burn them because they really don't serve much purpose other than dragging you back into the past, which, you can look at and learn from, but to dwell there is just stopping moving forward. And I think it'll be interesting. She says that was the perfect life. That was the perfect life. Um, but like Mrs. Elm said, there were things about that life that she wasn't as thrilled about, and was it really the perfect life? Is she ever going to find the perfect life? I doubt it. I doubt it. I mean, but I don't know because we read that one book that says that's just BS. That's just a belief system that everything can't be wonderful all the time. But I don't know. I think as spirits, I think we're like home for us is where everything is good all the time. And I think we probably kind of get bored of that after a while and we want to jump down here and experience the roller coaster. So, and that's how we wind up here. I don't know. But I do, that my belief system is just that God is loving, and no loving God would send their child into this chaos without their complete and total agreement and consent. That is my belief system. So even though it all seems completely chaotic and crazy, I still think that it all serves in somehow, some way, if nothing else, just to ignite the compassion in people's hearts as they gaze upon it, the happenings. So maybe just that twinge of true heartfelt compassion is all that's needed. Who knows? We don't know. We focus like this is why regrets need to be burned because what we think are like the most horrible things that we've done in our lives are really not. I wrote a poem to my kids years ago. Um, and I basically said, I wish I had done more of this instead of this, and I wish I had done more of this instead of this. And and then I sent it to each one of my kids, and they came back and they're like, "What are you talking about?" Like, I don't know what, like they did not have the same recollections that I had at all. And so that's why regrets are kind of worthless because they're they're not necessarily reality, and they're certainly not everybody's reality. They're just like your little piece of reality looking through a very dirty lens, I guess. I don't know. Like you said, Samantha, we're just so hard on ourselves, and the things that, I mean, I don't believe God judges, but for people that do believe God judges, like all the things that they think God is going to judge them about, I don't think God judges them for that at all, or for anything for that matter. But I mean, I don't know. I'm just a human right now, and well, not just a human. I'm spirit too, but playing this human part, the the compassion that I feel at times is so intense. And I know that God's love is so much more than I can even try to express in this life. I just don't think that God would do this to anyone against their will. I think we have free will, and that includes choosing all of this.
It might not seem like it sometimes, but I agree.
Well, I mean, it's not like we're not perfectly capable of exiting stage right at any point. We are capable of that, and we keep staying here. We keep staying here. So we must want to be here on some level. We may not know exactly what it is, like you said. I mean, it could just be that the eternity is so freaking long that we are bored out of our minds on the other side. And literally, like I said, Captain, we came here just to have an experience of something different. Yeah, I mean,
Oh gosh.
maybe peace gets boring after, 10 million years. And we have to come down here and experience some chaos to reappreciate how awesome a piece is. I don't know. I don't
What
know.
do you watch on TV? I mean, for people that watch TV, a lot of it is drama, you
Uh-huh.
know. It that's all these reality. I mean, I don't watch any of them, but
Yeah.
I see the commercials for them, and I know that like there's a lot of people that watch those shows, and it's all drama and chaos and all this craziness, and
They're
but in the
getting paid
end,
to do it.
yeah, in the end,
Yeah,
good
but
always
nobody's getting
wins.
paid to watch it,
I
but they're
know.
still.
Isn't that
I'm
funny?
like, oh, good Lord, don't you have enough drama in your life without adding a whole bunch more drama? But apparently
No,
not,
in fact,
because
you have to pay to get those shows. Yeah, to have television, you got to pay somewhere or whatever. And I'm like shaking my head and turn it off. I don't want it.
Yeah, it occupies our mind, and to think like in to go back to that idea of being the engineer or the pilot or the author of our own life path. How do you steer, but with your thoughts and your mind and your conscious projection of the things that you want to happen in your life. you know I mean, how else can there's there's no real steering wheel in a train. There's no you know um you know there's no handlebars really that you can steer on a roller coaster, if we go with that idea. um, but even if you're the author, it's up to you to pen the words and in on those pages, and to guide yourself and to project your what you want into your own future with your thoughts, and then followed by your actions. And So let go of those regrets. Stop focusing on the regrets. Not that you have to forget, but definitely forgive yourself and move forward, move on, because that's the best way we can, once again, from last week, be a little selfish about your feelings and your inspiration that you can stoke within yourself, and to move forward to do to do greater things than you ever imagined, and break through that box of that you've been allowing yourself to be cooped up in from the the history of your past paths you've taken, and just go for it and realize how you're steering yourself, and how you can get yourself there to where you want to be, and it's really through your concentration of your thoughts, your feelings, your energies, your your uh, your own authorship, you know, and you have you're worthy of it. You have every right to it. You have the power to do it. You deserve it. We each do. So at least that's my BS. my belief system, as you say. Well, that's what I choose to believe too. So it's up to you to make the choice of what you want. I think everybody gets that, as in you were saying, the free will. You know, you know, just go for it.
Yeah, I just had this thought, because Catherine was talking about, burning your regrets or doing the fire ceremony to burn those things. And I was like, we could could write out our BS that we want to get rid of, our current belief systems, and also write out what we want our BS to be if we are considering it a belief system, and then have the fire ceremony and literally burn the beliefs that are baloney that you don't want and keep the ones that you do want. And then every time you start to feel that BS, the negative BS creeping up on you, is do the same thing, is burn the bad BS and keep the good BS. you know, I mean, because ultimately, I mean, that's how we change our path, right? Is that we change what we think about, we change how we feel about things, we change our internal philosophy, if you will, so that we start going down the path we want to go down. One of the biggest things that I learned in a book I read a number of years ago, which was Conversations with God, is that God's like, you say you want this, but you keep following this path that is taking you down this. If you want this, then I'm not sitting here trying to tell you what to do. I'm trying to say, hello, you're doing this to yourself. So I think that we have to recognize that our belief system, our BS that we carry around with us, is what's got us on the path that we're on right now, and that we can change it by simply changing what we're saying to ourselves in our internal philosophy, our belief system, our energetic whatever that we have going on with ourselves, that we can change that, and that is what causes us to go down a different path. Because if we keep thinking the way that we're thinking, we're going to keep going in the direction that we're going. But if we change the way that we think to ourselves, the things that we believe about ourselves, the things that we feel about ourselves, that's what causes us to change the whole dynamic of our life.
Yeah, and it's not just, you can't just flip a switch, as they say, or have one thought, or hear what you just said, and which was so great, and then be like, oh, okay, I'm fixed. Everything's fixed. That's it takes continuous effort, and work, or it doesn't have to take continuous effort and work, but a lot of times we sort of have to stop the momentum going in the wrong direction and put enough energy into it to slow the ship and change direction and get us going on the right path, and then also seek out those things to give us the inspiration to stay in that direction and not um, allow us to be our focus to wander. Um, just a thought.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've had to freaking redirect myself, like 10 million or so. I don't know, you know, increments over time of, changing my thought processes. And, you know, then I go back and I wallow in my own bullshit for a while, and then I realize, oh, hey, I'm wallowing in my own bullshit. I need to stop that, and then I, start thinking about, okay, go back to all these tools that we've learned, all these concepts that we've talked about, all the different things, and, pick the things out that you need to do, start doing them again. I think it's just like changing your diet, or changing your healthy lifestyle. Is that we say, okay, I want to eat better, I want to exercise more, I want to whatever, and we start doing it. We start doing our activities, and then all of a sudden we're like, we get lazy and we go back into our old ways, and then we feel bad about it, and then we beat ourselves up about it, and then we're like, stop that, okay, just start again. So we start again, we start doing our exercise, we start eating our a little bit better, and then we fall off, and it's a roller coaster of I mean, if I don't know, I wouldn't say it's a roller coaster because we're not stuck on it. You know, we we just have to recognize when we're doing it to ourselves and keep trying, and stop beating ourselves up about it. I mean, we still are going to do that to some extent, but I think every time we go through the cycle, we get a little bit better at it. We get a little bit less critical of ourselves about it. And at least I do. And I, I mean, because we have these thought patterns. I mean, how old are we? you know, we've been in these thought patterns since we were young because of however we were raised, and we have to realize that it's not, and it's not just us. I mean, humanity as a whole, we're in these thought patterns, and we're in these belief systems, and because the culture that we were grown up in, we're inundated by these belief systems in every way. It comes at us from every direction, and we have to recognize that, and understand that that is part of it, and it's programming, literally, and we have to overcome it. And really, it's just a matter of recognizing when we're doing it to ourselves, and hitting the stop button or pause button, and then trying to work on it in the way that we want. And then, when we fall back into those patterns, we fall back into it for a while, we don't realize it, and then all of a sudden we start feeling that feeling, recognizing, oh hell, I'm doing it to myself again, and then we try again. I mean, that's all we can do. It's just keep trying, keep working towards what we ultimately want, and recognize that we can make the changes. We just we have to we got to stop beating ourselves up about being human. I mean, we are human, and this is part of our I mean, that is our experience, is being human. And being human means, okay, we're stuck in we're raised in a certain way, in a certain culture, in certain belief systems, and we may not agree with those, or we may not enjoy those, and we have to work on that. I mean, if we want to feel different, we have to recognize that we can make the changes, and we can recognize it, and we will probably fall back into old patterns, but it's okay because we're just human, and we just keep trying. I mean, I don't, that's an innate quality of humanity too, is that keep trying no matter what, no matter how bad it gets, no matter how horrible or whatever, or no matter how depressed we are. I mean, I would say 90% of us still are trying to improve in some way, overcome some challenge, or just keep moving forward, keep going, if you will. And it's a funny thing because it's so contradictory, right? You know, because we have all this mumbo jumbo that we carry around with us that we all are saying we want to change. And we keep striving to make changes. And yet we keep falling back into the old crap too, you know? It's like,
All I keep hearing is that all of this inspiration requires a lot of perspiration.
yeah,
Yeah.
perspiration, perseverance, you know? I don't know. It's the human condition, you know? It's constant challenges that we have to continually work on overcoming, and we continue to do it. Otherwise, you know, we do it. So I mean, that's our human makeup, you know. So we have, you know, we have some control over some of it, obviously, because we can make changes, we can think differently, but we also have a bunch of crap that is kind of stuck in our DNA or whatever that keeps coming back around, and we got to just keep fighting it off, just like new
Well, it seems
viruses,
that
you
way.
know,
Yeah.
new illnesses. Yeah. I mean,
Sometimes it seems that way.
I
I
don't,
think a lot of times it's like we grew up with like all a lot of I don't know things and people telling us what to do, but they don't really we don't really find a way to stoke the fire within ourselves or and get that inspiration. Everyone's different, you know. What gets you going is different for everyone. I think, you know, wouldn't it be great to be able to know exactly how to wake up every morning with such inspiration that you just are you know get up gleeful for everything that's about to happen and you know it, and that's I think a lot of it, at least for me, it's like how do you keep that inspiration and that energy constant or consistent and um, for yourself. Um, you know, even just forget the regrets, forget all this other stuff and the mumbo jumbo and the BS. You know, okay, so put all that aside and you just have a clear path ahead. So now what? A lot of us get to that point. We're like, well, now what? What do I? How do I inspire myself from not only point A to point B, but then from B to C and C to D throughout the day, let alone the year and the rest of my life. So it's that but that I think is really where do you find your fuel? The fuel for your personal engine, you know. Um, and then you're focused, if you're looking for that, there's no time to be thinking about any sort of regrets or anything like that, you know. um, and maybe we train ourselves too, if you ever do go think about regrets, well, what's the opposite of regrets, and train ourselves to immediately be triggered to start thinking about the good things and the opposite of that, the pleasure, the gratitude, the being grateful and all the things, and then just find that fuel again and then just move ahead and no time for regrets, right? Make that decision and go get it. Just
I think that's a key thing too, Jason, is having a something you're striving for, you know, is finding that thing that you want to strive for above and beyond what you think you're supposed to do or ought to do or should do, whatever, you know. I think that's I think a lot of people face that, you know, I think there's a lot of people also that are struggling so much in life that isn't even a concern at this point because they're just trying to survive. And but I think once you get to a point where survival isn't the only thing, and then trying to find some life purpose, I think is a, I don't know. I mean, that's a question mark too. What's going to get me motivated and enthusiastic, like Catherine was saying, enthusiasm, how to have enthusiasm for life, not just going through life getting shit done that needs to get done, but to have enthusiasm to get up in the morning and be excited about doing whatever you're doing in your life. I think that's a, I, I've never had a specific thing that I felt like, oh, okay, this is the thing for me that I'm so passionate about. I've had things that I've had interest in, but not so much interest that I want to spend my whole existence focused on it, or not even whole existence, but like my main thing, you know? There's just like a whole bunch of random stuff that's interesting or enjoyable, or I feel like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like a lot of times I kind of wallow in this blah blah space because I don't have a thing that I'm super excited about getting up for and doing every day, or at least often, you know. And I like things, but or not things, but like um, you know, like going out in nature. I love doing that, you know, but I wouldn't say that that's what I live for, you know. Um,
Yeah,
I'm
like
glad to know that. Sorry.
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm glad to know that I'm not the only one that doesn't have this big thing that I'm just all excited. That's what I get up for. That's what
Uh-huh.
glad I'm not the only one in that space.
Right. I think there's a lot of us that are in that space where we're just like kind of going through life with, you know, I mean, yeah, we have some things we're interested in, but it's not like if I don't ever do this thing again, well, I don't know. I wouldn't want to not ever be able to go outside in nature again, but I wouldn't say that I want to develop some whole big thing around nature to make it a life purpose or whatever, you know, other than just enjoying being outside, you know, or enjoying aspects of it. But yeah, I don't know.
that's kind of what I get out about from that saying where I haven't heard it in a while, but that we're in this together kind of thing is that that we all have that that need to have that balance, that we to find that enthusiasm, excuse me, and that we all have the same experiences, even though like mental faux pas and mental, or energy wise, lack of energy or lack of direction. It's so interesting to me when I read about a very successful person and come to find out they have all this that they've been battling um, personally themselves, anxiety and depression and um, feeling low self-worth, and it's that part of it is like sort of, I think when they speak of that, they speak of that knowing that and hoping that that will help the rest of us understand that they go through that too, and that so don't feel alone in that, in your struggles, because many of those same struggles are the same exact struggles that that successful people go through, that we all deal with from time to time, if not always. So um, you know, it's just, it just takes that perspiration. Gotta be willing to perspire a little bit and work on it, I guess. Focus and stick with it and seek out those things that inspire you, and don't expect that they're going to inspire everyone else. It's for you. It's your fuel. If it's great if it does inspire others, but hey, it's there for you, and this is your turn. So, you know, again, you know, pilot your own ship and, you know, fly it to the stars if you want, whatever it might be, you know.
Get your astronaut suit on, Jason.
Yeah, I need to switch back
Shoot
to
for the
that.
stars, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Yeah. There you go.
Get ready for the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Prepare yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
Focus. It will happen. You stay focused long enough.
I think it's good that we can recognize, or that we can learn that, other people are going through the same kind of stuff that we are, because I think sometimes we get stuck in our own head thinking, we're alone in this, this crap we're going through. And, but really we aren't. I mean, we may not be having the exact same experiences, but we definitely have a lot of the same BS patterns that we experience, and same kind of thought processes that we struggle with, and all of that. And I think it's good for us to see that, or at least be able to discuss it, although I think sometimes that's why a lot of people are attracted to that drama BS, as they're going through drama in their own lives, and they just want to see that everybody else is experiencing drama too. I don't know. So they're not, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we get drawn to the shows, and we get drawn to a character in a show, and it's all very well scripted and thought out by the creators and the presenters of those shows. Um, but do we realize, how much that is affecting our thought patterns throughout the next day? Um, I mean, you kind of feel like, oh, you come home and you just want to decompress and relax. And let me put on a show. I was wondering how this is going to end, or how, what's going to happen with this character, and how is this going to turn out, you know. But it just shows you how much, or shows me at least, how much of my thought process or pattern kind of revolves around that character, that instance, that drama, um, and really when we're in that becomes a habit of coming home and getting into those shows, whatever they may be, whatever it may be, um, and that's time spent where we're focused is there, and not on where you want to be in your future. So how can you how can you even blame yourself for not being where you want to be already? Um, but that is something we can change. That is or at least control somewhat. That's why I love these discussions, is because once I think about it, then I have the option or to make a difference in my own life, and that gives me more control over what is uh, what is influencing me and my thoughts, uh, where my energies are going or coming from, and ultimately, I do feel like I make more headway towards the things I really want to accomplish um, throughout the week when I'm able to make better decisions because I've taken the time to have these discussions. So once again, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
For sure. We've been on here a while, so we should probably wrap it up.
Happy holidays, everybody. We're not going to be here next week.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
hope
Yeah,
everybody
happy
has
holidays.
wonderful, wonderful holiday.
Yep. Yep.
Hardy,
Yep.
hardy. Send out the love. Give yourself a hug and
Mhm.
spread it around.
Mhm. Go give somebody a hug and get a hug in return. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Good
Share a
plan, Jason. Yeah, yeah.
share a smile. Share some nog.
Uh-huh. Yeah, exactly.
Some goodwill.
Mhm.
Or don't if that's how that
If you're
makes
a
you feel.
Scrooge.
Yeah,
If you're
right.
passionate about being a Scrooge, be the best Scrooge you can be, right?
There you go.
And that was Matt, is it Matt Kahn? Is he the one? He was like,
Yep.
being a bitch and just recognize that you're being a bitch and be the best bitch you can.
Yep. I was that the other day and I heard his words telling me,
Uh-huh.
just go ahead and be the biggest bitch you want to be the best
Right.
bitch.
You
I
know
was
what's
like,
most
okay,
funny about that, is that you start to do that and you have that kind of thought process go through your head, and then it just becomes funny.
exactly.
That's
It
so.
lightens the moment.
Mhm. Oh man, I feel like sometimes when I'm having those bitchy moments, if you will, then if Chris will, he sometimes will kind of cop this attitude where he'll just like be poking me, and he'll have this smirk on his face, like one of those kind of things, and I'm like, okay, 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 I know I'm going overboard on this ridiculous whatever tirade that I'm having at the moment. That it kind of reminds me of just being funny. It's just funny. So
Have
we
fun.
recognize how ridiculous we are. It just becomes funny. So
Yeah.
go out there, just be funny. Just laugh at yourself for your ridiculousness. Oh,
That's what
all
I
right.
do. Love you
Right. Just
guys.
love you guys too. Have an awesome, amazing week. And for those of you who are watching, if you found any enjoyment or help or whatever out of this, just give us a like on YouTube and share a comment if you have any thought processes on anything. We'd love to hear from you. So, with that, everybody have an awesome, amazing week. And we'll see you next time on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.